And welcome back, bookworms and listeners. That's right. On screen with me are both of our guest hosts that you've been seeing over the last, I didn't calculate it, but I'm assuming it's more than 12 weeks. Yeah, over 12 weeks.
Seems at least,
Yes.
right?
At
At
least.
least.
At least. I'm going to turn my headset volume up a little bit so I can actually hear you. So, first things first, I'm the realist. Said no one ever because Iggy Azalea does not exist. Um,
What?
and I'm laughing inside my head. First things first, I'm the realist. That was how her like one hit song started. Iggy Azalea in like 2012. Okay. So the spoiler statement for this episode is full spoilers for everything Cosmere. We likely won't touch on Tress, Yumi, or Sunlit Man. We will likely touch on Mistborn, obviously Stormlight, not likely Warbreaker or Elantris, but you have been warned. That is the spoiler statement. I've already talked about our guest hosts, but we welcome Trevor back this week. Thank you, Trevor. I hope you had some good time off, um, or at least you missed us. Either one.
Time off.
I missed you guys so much. I was at a wedding last week, and then the week before there was some family drama, so I much would
Yeah.
have preferred to be here. But
Yeah, that's
is what
how
it is.
most people feel, actually. Even people who haven't seen our videos, they
It's
would
true.
rather be on this Zoom call. CJ, thank you for coming back. We greatly appreciated your contributions the last couple of weeks, and we thought, why not see if he wants to come back? And you were just crazy enough to say yes. So here we
Just crazy enough.
just crazy enough. All right. So, into a little bit of news. Like we mentioned last week, the tickets for various Nexus events are up. Some of them are going really fast. CJ, have you been taking a look at the panels that you're on? Have they been slowly chipping away?
Slowly, it seems like there was a huge burst at the beginning.
Hmm.
Like my breath hacking panel was effectively sold out. I think that first day and sold out. I mean, I think anybody can still walk into them, but the amount of interest pre-expressed in that panel it already meets seating capacity.
Wow.
Now, what that looks like on day, who knows? But there was at
Right.
least enough people that went, "Yeah, I'm interested in that." Click a
Yep.
button. The 45 minutes we have to recap all four books, two novellas, and theorize about book five still has about 1,000 spots available in it. Probably because people are like, "That's not a lot of time," and I
Yeah.
agree. It is terrifying.
10 minutes per
Yeah.
book, 2.5 minutes per novella. Boom. That's easy. What are you talking about, man?
I currently the game plan is we're taking it by character arcs, like Kaladin, Shallan, Dalinar, Zeth, Navani, Herald slash Unmade. Because trying to take it book by book, it's like you'd be so disjointed moving back and forth. So
That's
currently the goal is like take Kaladin all the way up to Wind and Truth and like incorporate the theory into the recaps. Like as we're recapping, like, and that's why we think Kaladin and Syl will kiss, or whatever the whatever it might be.
yeah.
I
Yeah, that's
hope
a good way to
that never
go.
happens.
You just
That specific event, I hope never happens.
You alienated about two-thirds of our audience right there. Just
Well,
kidding. No,
I'll
no,
back you up,
no,
CJ.
no.
You know
it
what? I
it
hope
is
they
a
get married. How
valid
about that?
it's a valid theory, honestly, the way it's going.
It's a
Uh,
valid theory. I just do not want Kaladin and Syl to. No, no.
Totally get it. I
I
get it.
think I don't know, man. I don't know.
I'm
What
not.
Jay
I'm not
said
hating
last
on anybody that
chapters.
does ship it. That's fine, but not
Yeah,
for me.
yeah.
Totally
Now,
fair.
if you were one of the lucky 400 people to grab the RPG Epic tickets, um, please know. What were you, CJ?
I
Yeah.
was, yes.
No. Nice, nice. They are putting that together. They sent out an email to everybody who got tickets for that to join their Discord. This morning, I switched to GM it for our group. Um, CJ, we are at capacity for our table. Otherwise, I would invite you to that. If Alex drops and you don't have anybody else to sit with, I'll
Okay.
put you on
Okay.
our table. But go in there. They're going to put up seating arrangements. If you're a solo player, you can just slot yourself wherever. If you have a group, you can put your whole group in. Anybody's going to be able to edit that. Feel free to sit next to our table. It will be the best table. We're going to have Griff and Trevor, my wife,
Absolutely.
Trevor's wife, and my friend Chris. We are all going to have a great time. The story is that it is set during Words of Radiance. We will be playing soldiers in a High Prince's army, and that is all we know at the moment. So that's exciting.
That sounds an awful lot like it's the battle at the end of the books. I'm not even in the Discord yet, but that's
Yeah.
my, if I had to put money on it, that'd be my bet.
That's a fair bet. That's a fair bet. Yeah. Yeah.
CJ, I haven't looked at your event yet. What's the blurb for breath hacking?
It's a bit of a 101 and then a 401. So like, here are the
Okay.
basics of breath, like make sure everybody's on the same page. And then what are the weirdest, kookiest things we can come up with breath?
Okay.
Little snippets from our meeting we had at first was awaken a blanket to like kill the next guy who comes into that, like sleeps in that bed, like
Oh my
strangle
God.
them.
Dude.
Awaken your teddy bear to make sure it's like always going to take care of Molly forever. And then, in the vein of Hoyd and memories, can I pass breaths along if I unkey them and like turn you into a star athlete? Because I'm a star athlete and I put my athletic ability into my breath and I give it to you, and now you have that ability.
One of my crazier theories for Wind and Truth involved that, and everyone in the comments was like, "No, you can't do that." I was like, "Oh, maybe you can't." Okay. So,
I don't know why not. I mean, we just don't know enough, right? That's the fun part about it, is we have so few books that it's like, well, we can take this and then extrapolate, and maybe we're right, maybe we're wrong. Like literally no way to know at this stage.
Yeah.
So I'm excited.
All right. Sorry, Alex. Quick to your
No, you're good. You're good. I'll go ahead since nobody asked. I'm on Mistborn Era 3, 9 p.m. on Friday. Mistborn Era 3 theorizing.
Can you send me a ticket to that one, Alex?
Sure, I can do that literally right now because I have it
Awesome.
because I'm that vain.
Fantastic.
Boom, done.
I will say the breath hacking one is interesting because and I won't go into too much detail, but what kind of comes to me is Total Recall / I Can Remember It For You Wholesale,
by Philip,
which would be transferring your memories of a vacation to someone else so that they can have the memories of the vacation without actually going on the vacation.
That reminds me of the second of John Green's books, which is either an absolutely remarkable thing or some. Oh wait, yeah, an absolutely remarkable thing. The second to a beautifully foolish endeavor. Oh wait, no, I think that's backwards. It doesn't matter. Go read that. They're great.
Anyway, regardless, that was what just occurred to me because we know that there's something with breaths and memories. So
we do. What if you could spike a breath to something?
Yeah.
Don't
like you mean give somebody memories unintentionally, or
like can you use a hemalurgic spike to take the breath out of an object and spike it into somebody?
Oh, so
yes, absolutely. Because I believe there is a hemalurgic spike that can transfer investiture.
I love it.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to find the bind points, right? Like, that's the tricky part. It's like everything should have a spirit web, and so if it has a spirit web, you should be able to find the bind point.
Right. If you make the thing into a humanoid shape, I wonder if the bind point might. Anyways, we're gonna move on from that before.
That is the perfect kind of Brandon spoiler question that would make him go.
Yeah.
I've never. I mean, no Wob. I've never seen him ask that. That'd be.
Have you went outside and touched grass lately?
Robert Jordan would do that to people. He would be like, "Young lady, are you? You should like think about something else a little bit." In some of those Q&As.
This is what happens when your fandom gets too big. You start getting people overthinking things.
Too late.
Just a little bit.
Okay, the second thing we have, there is a slight sadness in the world. Light Day and Words of Radiance shipping is pseudo-stalled. The Words of Radiance, they're getting it out as best they can. They got way more orders for Light Day than they thought they would, And so they've pushed the delivery of the add-ons category of the Words of Radiance leather-bound campaign and some of the, I believe, 325 tier. Um, they've pushed that delivery expected to the beginning of 2025. They do have a free printable for if you're giving it as a gift to somebody. It's a cute little sheet of paper that has a QR code that leads to something, I assume, that relates to the Words of Radiance leather-bound.
Yeah, I think it's like a picture that's
Oh,
like
yeah.
I think it's like you have contributed to the Brandon Sanderson Kickstarter or something like that. Like a pseudo certificate, right? I guess it's a
Yeah.
certificate, just not a
Yeah.
very official one.
Yeah, I mean,
Have you
the most official we can get.
Yeah.
have you guys seen the post on Reddit about the mugs?
No.
It's
It's
real
like
bad.
yeah, it's a
I
good
don't know.
little mini
Yeah.
announcement.
Do you
I'll let
show
CJ take over.
pictures on this?
Um,
Let me see.
I can if it's significantly worth it, if somebody will send that to me.
Yeah, I'll shoot you in the
Yeah.
email. It's not good.
It's worth letting people know before they spend their money. This is one of the rare Dragonsteel misses. I think next year if they try it again, it'll definitely be better. But it's an item was going to get at Nexus that I'm not going to be skipping.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Same.
Man, that bad?
Yeah, they're like they're decals apparently on the mugs
Mm.
for all the Radiant orders. And somebody bought all 10, right? Like somebody who went full in, got the full set, and put them through the dishwasher once, and like half of the orders are just peeled in half.
And they do say that their
Ouch.
dishwasher's safe, so that's the issue.
Yeah.
Well, that's upsetting.
Yeah.
Dang.
Someone also like dinged theirs, and like it was like a small little ding, but it like you can clearly tell it like there's no protection whatsoever on these things.
Dang.
So like the smallest little thing will make it
Dang. And
less
I
perfect.
collect mugs. I'm glad I didn't go ahead and wow.
Anyways,
That's yeah. So okay. Caveat emptor. Buyer beware. That's what that means, right? Somebody please validate me.
Yeah,
Thank you.
caveat is like warning, and then emptor is probably buyer.
Yeah.
Might as well be.
Yeah, why not? Why not? Somebody in the comments will say, "No, your Latin sucks. Please go touch grass." That's
Yeah, probably.
Latin these days is you touch grass. Okay, the last thing we have before we go into the chapter reading, unless somebody else has something, is Griff and I yesterday, doesn't actually matter what time, we got on with the Sanderson Collector. We did a video with him. That'll be coming out on his channel within a couple of weeks. We did a tier list of the Dragonsteel merch available on the site that's Cosmere specific. And there were some upsets. I was not expecting some of those things to go the way they did. But it was a really great time. I expect it's going to be a really fun video. So
and we're also going to have a part 2 coming out probably after the con because weren't able to settle on the pajamas because nobody had them to lend their experience to the quality of the pajamas. So
that is true. Yes, we did save those to be rated after Nexus.
Will Shaper won, correct? Because that's obviously the best.
We just Will Shaper in general, like the pants, or I mean pajamas, or just in general.
Yes. Maybe both, but specifically at the moment, the pajamas / shirt. That's my favorite.
We didn't rank.
Oh, okay, within the order. Okay.
So all 10 of them are left at the bottom of the screen, unranked. But man, I'm telling you, some upsets. It was weird. We're also going to have him on to review Mistborn Secret History with us. So watch out for that sometime in the future. Lots of fun. And just to plug him a little bit, he did write a book about collecting Sanderson stuff, and that's going to be available at Nexus. And he's got this really cool embosser, and he will sign and number it for you. He's going to sign and number every copy, I believe. So definitely stop by his booth, pick it up. Stop by our booth, 225. We are sponsors. We do have stickers. We are going to be doing little recordings throughout the con. It's going to be great. Anybody have anything else before I start to talk at you for about 65
an hour?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it that long?
No,
I
no.
mean,
Pretty long.
the initial chapter was 45 minutes, and if we encounter or we take into
How
account
many?
things where Alex potentially pauses to reset his reading,
Oh,
it
yes.
could take a while.
It might.
Yeah.
It might.
How many POV splits?
I think there might be like 4.
Yeah,
Do you
because
want to
there's
stop at half, or is
Uh,
that too much?
hold on. Wait, the first one is I think the first one is only okay, it's 3. No,
It
no,
looks
it
like it's
is
a pretty
4.
even split almost.
You know what? That is an even split. Hold on. Where does the because it goes okay, actually, yes, that would actually be a good thing to do. Um, because we get Dalinar and Navani first. No,
Alon first.
we get Shallan, then Dalinar and Navani, then it breaks, then we get Shallan, and then we get Renarin. So yes, let's break after Dalinar and Navani, and then we'll go on from there.
Sounds good.
Sweet.
Cool, 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 cool. I'm gonna make no mistakes. That's the goal. That's not the
isn't that always the goal?
no. One of the other times it was to get through it as fast as possible.
Okay, fair.
Yeah. So, so this time though, this time, just kidding. That's not the goal. The goal is to do it as I want to, because I'm the one reading it. Okay. I'll probably cut that. Yes, do it. Do it. Cut that, Alex. Don't say you're going to cut it and then don't cut it like you did in that other video. Okay. Chapter 31. Experiment. So think, my dear reader, as a soldier retreats from a battle he cannot win, as a woman rejects a home that shows her only violence, as a family finds hope in walking away from dying fields during a season of too much rain. From The Way of Kings, Fourth Parable. Shallan had brought some of the Windrunners from the raiding party, so she, Renarin, and Relaine quickly reached the Oath Gates. From there, Shallan sent one Nope, already messed up, and that's okay. I'm gonna say Windrunner correctly this time. From there, Shallan sent one Windrunner to find Dalinar and Navani to explain, as she worried her Spanreed message hadn't been received. She then brought the group into Shadesmar via Oathgate. Mraize and Eotil were on the move. She needed to be too. On the other side, with Testament and Pattern appearing in full-sized form next to her, Shallan got her first sight of the tower there, after its awakening. It was brilliant. Before, the tower had manifested as a shimmer of light, but now that light had coalesced, like false dawn becoming true sunlight. It formed a tower that was a clone of the one in the physical realm, but as if created from glowing glass, a sphere infused, but on the scale of a mountain. Though the light did not overpower her, her eyes watered, trying to take in the entire structure. It glowed with the fractured variety of 1,000 colors, an artist's bounty of effulgent shades, changing, each moment a different hue, as if the tower were too exuberant, too joyous and alive to be confined to mere color. It was magnetic, taking not only her breath and attention, but her soul and mind, which longed to just once create something so beautiful. It was the pinnacle of all artistry. This was the height to which creations could rise. This was what you could. Do you need me to take control? Radiant asked. Please, Shallan said, tears in her eyes. Radiant took a deep breath, acknowledged the pretty tower, and moved on. 2 Windrunners, Isisic and Britta, waited in here with their spren and their squires. Together, the group was chatting with the Shadesmar guards. Though she'd left the bulk of her strike force to watch the captives, she'd sent these Windrunners on ahead to try to see if they could find Mraize and Eotil while Shallan fetched Renarin. They didn't seem to have learned anything, judging by their postures as they talked with the 3 guards that were posted on this side just in case. Radiant looked around, hoping for some sign of the Ghostbloods. Here, near the tower, the 10 Oathgates manifested as tall pillars, each with its own set of lofty inkspren. Ramps ringed each pillar, spiraling down to the beads far below. With the restoration of the sibling, glowing walkways had appeared connecting the pillars, as well as leading to the tower itself, which now stood upon a large glowing platform of its own. Seeing nothing amiss, she trotted to the Windrunners on one of the walkways. Brightness, Isasik, the Windrunner said. This wasn't the cartographer, but the other Isasik, a shorter man with an excitable demeanor. Both he and Brette were former bridgemen from the Bridge 13, the group that had become Teft's squires. She thought that was why they wore red glyph wards on their arms, something about a pact relating to Moash and vengeance. Radiant appreciated their regard for a fallen companion. Over time, Tower soldiers had moved away from wearing Kholin blue and toward a uniform representing their new kingdom. It appeared white uniforms with gold trim had finally been settled upon, as it was one of the distinctive color combinations that wasn't associated with an Alethi or Vaden princedom. We did a sweep of the area and found no sign of the fugitives, Britta said, hovering a few feet off the ground. The guards haven't seen them either. We've been posted here all day, said a guard with a faint Bavland accent he was obviously trying to mask. Nobody transferred in until these Windrunners arrived. Radiant folded her arms, thoughtful. Around her feet, a collection of beads gathered and bounced up and down. Other Shallan, they said. The Windrunners seemed to find that quite amusing. Had she been wrong? Would Mraize and Eotil flee instead of trying to continue their plan? They entered Shadesmar on the Shattered Plains, thousands of miles away, she said. They'd need to have found their way here via Oathgate. Could Mraize and Eotil be waiting before arriving? Would they jump here at the moment Dalinar opened his portal, making a break for it? Renarin and Rlain joined her, having overcome their awe. Radiant, Renarin said, could you please explain better what's going on? I'm still confused. Sorry, Radiant said. Shallan is inefficient with words at times. There is a secretive group known as the Ghostbloods who are seeking to control the balance of power on Roshar. Again? Rlain asked. Didn't you round them up right before the invasion? Those were the Sons of Honor, Renarin said. Amram's former cohort. You know, I wonder if we ask for this sort of thing. We create this air of Alethi propriety, promising that we're upfront and honest. No one can say what they really think because it would be un-Alethi. Then our honesty becomes a lie as we turn to scheming. It's kind of how you all ended up with a kingdom in the first place, Radiant agreed. Dalinar, Gavilar, Navani, Sadeas, Eoli. Frustrated that they were considered outsiders from the backwaters, they plotted to found an empire. Unfortunately for us, the Ghostbloods are supported by some very powerful individuals from off-world. You mean the fused? Rlain asked. Further off-world, Radiant said. Shallan was recruited by them when she was new to her powers. She kept pretending to be a member, hoping to learn more. It came to a head recently, and she realized she had to stop them from reaching their goals. Well, that's a stormy big secret, Rlain said to a very pronounced rhythm, which Radiant couldn't place. Renarin just met her eyes, then nodded. Damnation. He understood. She now felt infinitely more guilty for finding him weird when they first met. They've been keenly interested in the Unmade, Radiant said. They've met with Ja Anat and... Renarin, I think she's given them a spren to bond, like she did to you and Rlain. Speaking of which, where were their spren? Shouldn't they have appeared when Pattern, Testament, and her armor had? She plays both sides, Renarin admitted. She's told me as much. Her spren accepted me, Relaine said, when none of the honor spren would. That's unfair. Brita's... Oh, wait. That is a female honor spren, not Brita. Okay. That's unfair, Brita's honor spren said, glowing blue with hands on her hips. Lots of humans weren't chosen either, Relaine. It comes down to individual decisions. And yet, Relaine said, every single member of Bridge 4 now has an honor spren, except me. Curious how people's decisions are an individual matter when they're confronted about them, but those decisions form blatant patterns. Ja and not, Radiant said, drawing their attention back to the topic, cannot be trusted, but she's also not our enemy. She said her spren have an affinity for the spiritual realm. I think the Ghostbloods are planning to use those spren to help them navigate it. I determined I'd have a much better chance of figuring out how they'd do that, or even what the Ghostbloods plan to do, with your help. Spiritual realm? Renarin said, where you said a certain thing is hidden, Radiant continued, not wanting to say too much in front of the guards. Shallan had given this explanation earlier. Renarin nodded. So, your spren, Radiant said, do they have any insights? I'm certain the Ghostbloods are going to show up here, likely right as Dalinar opens the portal. The fugitives might make a dash for it. It would help, Renarin said, to know where this portal will be. He narrowed his eyes, then pointed at the tower. Radiant had the strangest impression as he did so, that his arm and hand were outlined by a soft red glow while in motion, as if he was overlapping some second version of himself. This light, possibly his spren, moved just before he did. It was an afterimage in reverse. There, Renarin said. Can you see them? I can, Relaine said, pointing as well, and his body had exactly the same precursor image. They're in the tower. The barnsmiths, their souls glow powerfully. Spren revolve around Aunt Navani, Renarin said, the way winds move through a chasm, sculpted by it. They're coming down in a lift. So we go to them, Radiant said, because that's where Mraize and his team will need to be once the portal opens. It was starting to grow dark outside as Navani finally led the group down a lift through Urathiru to find an appropriate place to perform their experiment. Storms. The entire second day had passed that quickly. She didn't feel tired, a blessing from the sibling, though she did see some signs of fatigue in Dalinar, the way he clasped his hands behind him, forcing himself to stand tall. They reached the ground floor, light fading in the sky outside the great atrium window as the sun set on the opposite side of Urathiru. She led them through a swarm of glory spren to a stairwell, holding Gav's hand all the way. The boy needed more attention from both of them, and fortunately, he had managed a nap during the many meetings. As they reached the bottom of the steps, entering a long hallway, she trailed her other hand along the wall, layered with strata in lines and patterns. She could feel the tower thrumming, 1,000 different mechanisms working in concert, like the organs of a human body. Dalinar and Wit strode behind her. Behind them were the characteristic host of attendants and guards. Navani could almost ignore them as she walked. Gwam? Gav asked softly. I'm scared. She stopped and knelt, letting several of the others pass by. Why, Gav? He looked up toward the glory spren bobbing around her, then he cringed. Could you back away, please? Navani said, lifting her head and speaking to the spren. They did, many of them vanishing and the others moving to the very top of the corridor. Gav relaxed. The spren that had tormented him in the Kholinar Palace had been of a completely different variety, but that didn't matter in the face of trauma. Was that it? She asked. Not just that, he whispered. The tower. I saw it earlier. And Graham? It's a spren? The whole thing? The tower is good, Gav, she said. It cares for us. He nodded, but didn't seem convinced, so she gently took his hand and held it to the wall. Can you feel that? She asked him. I'm not sure, he said, scrunching up his face. Close your eyes, she said, and listen. He did so. It's humming? That's right, she said. There's a tunnel nearby where boxes flow along on a belt. They're carrying laundry from all through the tower down here, where it can be washed. It's not fully up and running yet. We need many more boxes. But this is one of the ways we know the tower is good. Because it has boxes? Because it makes everyone's lives better, Navani said. With this mechanism, no one will need to climb stairs with heavy bags of clothing. Beyond this are vast rooms where fresh water is cycled and cleaned, so no one has to carry water. The tower is doing that for us all, not only for kings and queens. It is good, Gav. I promise. I feel it, Graham, Gav said, his hand beside hers. I really feel it. The tower is alive. All things are, she said, whether it's the cup you drink from, the home you live in, or the air you breathe. All of it is part of this world given us by the Almighty, and everything in this world is alive. It is one of the ways we know God loves us. And surely he did. Even if the person who had held the power was dead, that was merely an avatar, a vessel, not God. It was that vessel Dalinar hoped to replace. If he did, would he then return to conventional belief as she hoped? His new ways, new teachings, weren't strictly blasphemous, but things about them did make her uncomfortable. Dalinar and Wit reached a door at the end of the hallway. They stepped in, then a moment later Dalinar looked out and waved for her. She rose and joined him, and he lifted Gav and handed the boy to his governess, who stood with the guards. Nobody enters, Dalinar said. Pardon, Bright Lord, one of the guards asked, but why are we here? What are we doing? It's an experiment that could be dangerous, Dalinar said. It could take us as long as an hour or so. They nodded. Dalinar and Navani shut the thick door behind them, standing in one of the tower's water cistern rooms. Wit strolled through the room, noting where water poured out of pipes in the walls to crash down into the cistern. He said something, but she couldn't make it out over the cascading water. What was that? Navani said. You didn't hear? Wit said, strolling closer. Excellent. We are unlikely to be overheard, and this place is acceptably remote and secure. Yes, but what did you say? Navani asked. Wit smiled, then turned to Dalinar. You're certain you want to try this? I am, Dalinar said. Wit turned to Navani. As am I, she said. Very well, Wit said, fishing in his pocket. I've thought of the perfect vision for your experiment. He tossed Navani a small rock, which she caught, frowning. It wasn't crumstone, but perhaps a kind of granite, the type you had to quarry for or had to soulcast. She held up the rock for Dalinar. And this is? Dalinar asked. Rock from Ashen, Wit said lightly, like those carried by your ancestors to this world during their migration. They were fragments of a holy site on your homeworld, but stones themselves took on a kind of mystical lore by association. That sort of thing happens when the world undergoes repeated cataclysms and society gets knocked back to the Stone Age a few dozen times. Some 7,000 years later, everyone in Shinovar worships rocks and has no idea why. Navani gaped at him. What? He asked. Have you told them? She asked. Shared their heritage? Their history with them? Have you written this down? I keep meaning to, Wit said and shrugged. Dalinar turned the rock over in his fingers. You just have one of these? Did you steal it? Wit said. No, I picked it out myself right before the migration. To Roshar, Navani said. Yes. You were there? Again, Wit shrugged. Look, I can't be expected to tell you everything that has happened in the last 10,000 years, all right? Yes, I was there. Can we focus on the experiment? He pointed at the rock. We want an easy vision as a test, a particular event chosen by us, not pre-selected by Honor or the Stormfather. Yes, Navani said. That's correct. We need to observe historical events as they truly happened. Specifically, Wit said, you will eventually need to be able to find the history I missed in order to determine what led to Honor's demise, and see if you can find why the power refuses vessels now. First, we should start with something familiar to me, hence the rock. The rock, Dalinar said. Wit, I still don't follow. I explained this, he said. If you go into the spiritual realm without some kind of anchor or guide, there's no telling what you'll see. Events that you think about, that are a focus of individual or collective trauma or passion, are most likely. But really, it could be anything. You could dip in there and end up being shown an extended vision of a kindly old man feeding his axe hounds. For hours. Wit pointed at the rock again. So, Navani said, sorting through the flood of information he'd given her. This rock is an anchor to connect us to a specific moment, to draw us to that specific vision? That's correct, Wit said. Namely, the arrival of humankind upon Roshar. That's what we're going to see? Dalinar asked softly. Storms. If it works, yes, Wit said. Ideally, only your minds will be taken, your bodies staying here. You'll witness the migration, then return and tell me about it. Since I was there, I can authenticate that this has worked. A control for the experiment, Navani said. Exactly, Wit said. And with Dalinar's clock already attuned, you shouldn't get too wildly affected by time dilation. You should avoid coming out having aged 20 years. Though be careful, it still might be easy to lose track of the days. With that, you can see how much time is passing here, so keep an eye on it. Enjoy the vision for an hour or so, then I'll call you back. Dalinar nodded firmly. Wait, Navani said. How do we come back? How do we even initiate this? What are the mechanics? Tether yourselves here with a line of power, Wit said. Dalinar, you've done it before. Navani observed as he drew in Stormlight, then knelt and infused the ground with it. When he stood, a line of light anchored him there. With his coaching, she was able to draw strength from the tower, then press it into the ground, like an experiment with osmosis and diffusion. That line of light will act like a rope, Wit explained, so you can be pulled back should you slip in too deep. You should be able to see those lines of light in the vision and pull on them to come back yourselves. In an emergency, I can contact you through them. All right, Navani said, shivering. Now what? Now, Wit said, you open a perpendicularity and combine all three realms in a single point. You pass through, sending only your mind. How, though? Dalinar asked. Wit folded his arms, standing at the edge of the rippling reservoir. Light danced on the ceiling, reflected from the glowing gemstones set in the walls, just beneath the surface. Looking at him, she sensed something primordial about the man. His smile faded, his eyes profound, as if holding the darkness of the Cosmere before light sparked. I don't know, Wit said softly. You don't know? Dalinar said. You said... Navani laid a hand on his arm, quieting him, and looked to Wit, the deity who insisted he was not. Every time I've done this, Wit said, I've been at one of the pools, wells of power that grow around the presence of gods, a kind of natural spring grown of the power, When you step into such a well, you can feel the bond that gods have to the spiritual realm. You can see a little into the plane where they exist, where their thoughts move at many times the speed of mortals. I can feel that place calling me. Perhaps it knows I rejected it once. I am the fish that escaped the hook. I can share that feeling rather than a specific list of instructions, Dalinar. At times I have stepped into that power and have followed the call, emerging into a realm where gods dwell. I do it by instinct, as should work for you. It is not much, but you've asked for my help, and I give what I have. He met their eyes. I warned you of the danger. There are few paths in this universe I fear to walk. This is one of them. Navani met Dalinar's eyes. He sighed, but then nodded. Let's open the perpendicularity, he said, and feel it out. Chapter break. Woo!
Woohoo!
Good thing it's only going to take about an hour. So glad.
For this one chapter?
No, Dalinar and Navani, their experiment.
Oh, yes.
They were like, don't, it should only take us about an hour.
An hour or so, maybe two. They might get through for a couple of days, but definitely not 120 years or whatever, or 20 years of aging. That seems legit.
Yep.
They just pop back out in like Era 5.
I want, as we have 4 people and all of us have opinions, like I told y'all in that email, I will be sort of moderating this. So I want to first bring something to y'all's attention to discuss briefly. Teff's squires wear red glyph wards on their arms. Something about a pact relating to Moash and vengeance. Discuss.
Well, I mean, obviously, what happened to Teft in Rhythm of War.
Excellent. Good discussion.
Yes.
That was very succinct.
It was. All right. And moving. Do you think we're actually going to get to see a little vignette of somebody explaining the Pact of Vengeance?
Feels like that might be all we get, right? Like it's such a fast-paced book. It wouldn't shock me if so I could see 2 things. I could see one where they're like this crew ends up in one of the battlefields distracted, right? Because they're like, oh, Moash is over here. We got to go over here and take out Moash, which we have already seen is a conflict with the Windrunners, like ideals, right? That's one of Kaladin's problems is he goes along with Moash's vengeance, ironically, and that holds him back in Words of Radiance. However, it also might spur them into realizing like, oh, we need to protect even those we hate. And like, this is maybe a group that ends up having to protect Moash in some way. I don't know.
Whoa.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah.
Trevor, what was the first thing that stood out to you in this chapter?
The Rock.
Okay. Yeah. He's back.
Did any of them attach to the Rock? I can't remember.
They didn't attach to the Rock. I think they're going to use it to just wayfind to that vision.
Mm-hmm. Are they bringing it with them?
Yes.
Okay. Because if
they're using it as a focus, because like
my crazy tinfoil hat theory was, if you have something connected to Hoyd, could you see his past?
Yeah.
I mean,
so I thought
potentially.
Yeah. Like seeing not like the whole like flashback, but a glimpse at like, his past would be a fun thing later in the book. But,
so you're saying,
I mean,
Kaladin's flute, from the first flute, then we could be able to go back and see Hoyd in Credit Shaw taking the flute off of the Lord Ruler's thing that everybody wants it to be from.
I've never heard that theory, but I do love that theory. I
Have you not
haven't.
heard that? Yeah, so there's a mention of a flute in Mistborn: The Final Empire, or no, in Well of Ascension, that there's a spot where a flute was, and there were footsteps in the dust in Credit Shaw, and then we see
No
Hoyd
way.
taking the
Oh, that's awesome.
Lurassium not long after that,
Sure.
or that's when Hoyd took the Lurassium. So
There's
people,
a word of Brandon that almost seemingly confirms that.
was it confirmed? Because I thought the word of
He
Brandon.
just says very good thinking. It's just like
Oh, okay. Well,
Sanderson.
that works.
It's not a raffle, but it's like I'm not gonna give you the satisfaction, but yes.
Yeah, yeah. That's
Yeah.
cool. Okay, I didn't know that. I thought he said just coincidence. So that makes me happier. CJ, what was the first thing that stood out to you in this chapter?
Um, my first thing that stood out is other Shallan. I love the armor spren and
Yeah,
like all of the spren's interactions with Shallan's different personalities is just such a fascinating aspect of their relationship.
I agree.
Um, Honestly, it was a lot of spren stuff because then the next thing that was like connected to that is how Renarin and Relane's spren don't manifest outside of them, but I think we see later how they manifest, but
Indeed.
in the Renarin portion of the chapter. But
Yeah,
I love that aspect of their spren. I think it's my favorite part for them.
I agree. Griff, what was the first thing that stood out for you?
So the first thing that stood out for me was it was that little bit of an error that I messaged you about earlier, which is the
Oh,
fact that Relaine mentioned that he is the only one of Bridge 4 to not have gotten an honor sprint, which is actually not true because Renarin is also part of Bridge 4 and also does not have an honor sprint.
damn. What do y'all think about that?
I think there's still a lot of Relane that doesn't consider Renarin Bridge 4 with a capital B. Like he's Bridge 4, but there's Bridge 4, like we were on the bridge crew and we died together.
Right.
That's what I think he's probably thinking about.
I suppose
Didn't
I found it
Renarin
odd. No, go on,
sorry,
Trevor.
go ahead.
Sorry. No,
I
no,
was
no,
just
go
gonna
on.
say I thought Renarin bonded before he joined Bridge 4.
He did.
So
Technically, that's true.
you could
Yeah,
count him as
that's
a exception.
Yeah,
yeah, I suppose.
I
I
support
just
what CJ said.
Mhm.
I
for
think it's
me it kind of stood out because of the fact that Relaine and Renarin had that bonding moment just in the previous chapter or chapter before last. And for Relaine to not, I don't know, consider him, it seemed a little odd to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Can we quickly settle on a ship name for Relaine and Renarin? Does anybody know if one exists? Because it's pretty obvious what it should be.
Relarin?
It should be Relarin.
I like it. I like it.
It just makes too much sense.
Yeah, I'm down for it.
Okay. Perfect. Settled. That's it. That's the
Well,
episode.
Yeah, because I think the only other option would be Renane, and that just sounds odd. So I think
Sounds
Relarin is
goofy.
better.
Renaine sounds like one of the names Sanderson takes from the real world and butchers it. Like he took a lemon and made it
Or
Relaine.
like Waxilium.
Yeah. Waxilium is psyllium. That's that's what pops in my head every time. All right. Anything else that stood out to y'all from these first couple of parts of this chapter?
I do love the obligatory. Let's have a person be confused about the secret societies of Roshar so that the reader can have someone explain it to them again. Moment for this book.
Good trope. Good trope.
True, true.
I
I
had completely
appreciate it.
forgotten about it, and then Josh was talking about how like jarring it was to him in Rhythm of War when Adolin is like, "Wait, who were you trying to take on again? Was that the Skybreakers?" And Sean's like, "No, dear, the Skybreakers are with Nail, and they're the Radiants that have joined Odium, the Sons of On." And it's just like Adolin should know this. What do you mean Adolin doesn't know? Anyway, so it's funny to have like the next conversation like that happen.
An exposition bait.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Me and my goldfish memory appreciate it.
Oh, it has to happen. It makes sense. It's just like these are not necessarily the characters that should be struggling with this information.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
That's
I
true.
mean, yeah, it is absolutely necessary with the massive amount, or with the massive size of these books and the space in between the releases. I can absolutely understand the need for a little bit of an exposition piece there, but I agree that it does seem odd the characters he chooses sometimes.
Yep.
He just needs a
Let's see.
Dory so that you just have Dory
Oh
there.
my
Like,
gosh.
wait, who are we talking about? Oh yeah, okay.
Finding Gavinor.
Oh God.
Oh no.
Uh,
That was Oathbringer, right? Um, man,
Yeah, you're not wrong.
I thought the bit with Gav and Navani trying to
mhm.
convince Gav that the tower was a good spren was a nice little soft touch.
Yeah.
Given Gav's last chapter where he was like, burn the world and everybody in it. Just kidding. Just it wasn't that
It was pretty
terrible.
close. Right?
It was
Everybody
pretty close.
whoever heard his dad, right?
Yeah, which was a lot of people. It was potentially a lot of people.
Yeah,
There's so
potentially.
many there's so many theories that I hate for Stormlight that Sanderson keeps teasing in these first 2 days. I don't know how to feel about it. The
You
Silladin,
mean
Gavinor.
you don't like the part where Gav is like, Grandpa Dalinar, I can't get his names right. Grandpa Dalinar, let's play swords.
Mhm. And wasn't there a point where the nanny said at some point that he was having nightmares or something? Or am
And he
I
had red
crazy?
eyes. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
there's still a lot. Oh boy.
it's funny.
It'll be
yeah.
interesting to see which of the foreshadowing turns out to be true.
Yep.
None of it,
No,
actually.
isn't it
None
odd
of
that
it.
we haven't seen Moash for a hot sec?
It is
It's only been 32
Yeah,
chapters.
because we've not
only
seen
It's only been a
32
third of the book, you
chapters.
know.
because the last we got of Moash was that he collided into the side of a mountain and was blind.
Maybe we'll get an interlude or something to see where he's at.
I feel like probably the interlude is the most likely to see what's happening with Moash, and it depends on how large of a role he has to play because
Yeah.
They
I
actually
still don't necessarily think he's completely off the table as the champion.
I
Yeah.
I concur with
Yeah,
that,
no.
but actually, if y'all didn't see it, I actually skipped this when I was reading the chapter where Kaladin takes Dalinar out to that top of the mountain. They actually saw Moash dead from frostbite, and they were like, "Who is that?" And they're like, "I don't know. Do you want to figure out?" No, I don't want to touch him. And so they
Doesn't
saw
matter.
him, but they just didn't want to touch him. So they don't know if
That's
he's dead or
fair.
not.
So
Yeah,
he's just frozen on the mountainside there.
yeah, yeah. He couldn't find his way down. Like he dropped
He's just the dad from The Shining. It's like frozen.
yes,
Yep,
exactly. Yeah.
like
Um,
Jon Snow.
oh my gosh. Yeah. Okay. Is there anything important anybody wants to discuss before we move on to the second part of this chapter?
I don't
I
think so.
think last little bit for me is we get another indication that the stone worship might not be a real thing, like that this friend might not actually be in the stone at all in Zet's
That's true.
flashback. And it might just be a memory from, I'm assuming it's from when the cities floated. And so, like, the stone was what kept them up above, like, the ruined Ashen below. And so that's why they think there's a god inside the stone and there's magic inside the stone. And I mean, that would make sense because it's like if there really was an actual spren inside all the stones in Shinovar, you'd think we'd have seen some stuff of that by now. But I don't know. It's one of those things where it's still open to possibility, but Hoyd certainly thinks that it's all malarkey.
See, Hoyd thinks it's malarkey, but what we're actually getting is Sanderson telling us that the stone is special, then he's telling us the stone is not special, and we're supposed to believe the stone is not special, but the stone is actually going to be special because he was trying to trick us with reverse psychology.
Yeah.
I really liked the line Navani called Wit the deity who insisted he was not. And given Sanderson's inability to say whether Hoyt is human or not, um, that this could be one of those things where it's a throwaway line that is speaking way more truth than it should be. CJ, you look like you want to say something really bad.
I just think it's really interesting how Navani, the like super does not want to be an atheist Navani, is like, well, Hoyt, why haven't you gone to Shinovar and taken their religion away from them?
Right.
It's like, leave them alone. They're fine. Like they are chill.
Yeah, they're not doing anything. They're not harming anybody. They're just worshiping an unknown or an unmade, and they have shard honor blades, so they're fine. It's probably fine. They've not been too quiet during the war, right?
Terrifying.
Right, guys?
Wait, that reminds me, CJ. What's Yasna's position again on the Almighty and Rashar?
I mean, I
She
think
says there is no God, or
yeah. She's an atheist in terms of like a capital G God, but now she accepts the shards, which is in some ways like more terrifying to know that
I
think children have all these deity powers.
Yeah, she accepts the existence insofar as like there's proof that they exist, the shards, I mean.
Yeah.
So, but like, yeah, she doesn't, I don't believe that she thinks that they are divine in any way, not in any way that deserves respect.
Not a religious divinity, right?
Like, yeah. Like just simply more power than a normal person would have.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yep. The shards do sound a lot like the Greek pantheon.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do.
The powers. Yeah.
Yeah. Except
well, I mean,
the showers of gold and impregnating women. So
that we know of.
Give it time, Alex.
That's give him time. Let him cook.
Isn't that like the God King at a certain level?
Oh, damn, you're right.
Yeah.
Okay, they're not turning into oxen. Wait, they're not turning into. Dang, they are.
I think Hoyt actually has a literal story about this, where like they go up into the sky and it gets impregnated. So I don't know. I think it's actually very much in text.
Didn't they like trap their dad or something? The gods, they like trapped the dad.
They trapped.
Kronos.
Kronos.
So kind of like the mercenaries killed Adonalsium and then took the power for themselves.
Yeah, a lot of parallels.
Alex's mind is breaking a little bit. I can see.
No. I'm just thinking in the Sanderson theme park, we should have a Parthenon, that is shards, right? We should have a giant.
The 16 shards.
Yeah, we should have a giant. It should be intellect in the center, because Athena, right? And then just images, sculptures, and reliefs of various shardic endeavors. It's perfect. In fact, he should actually take over the one in Memphis, and just redo.
Better than the Bass Pro Shop we have right now. That's where I grew up. It makes me so sad.
Yeah. I passed by there. A did I? Doesn't matter. Let's go on to the next part of the chapter. I know I passed by it in a past life. Just kidding. No, it was like decades ago. Oh man, y'all went
decades.
All right. Decades. That's right. I can say multiple decades now. My knees hurt. I'm just kidding. My knees are fine right now. Chapter 31, Part 2. Technically Part 3. At Radiant's urging, the group flew toward the bondsmiths. They left Bretta's 3 squires behind to watch and give warning if someone came through one of the gateways. They soared through the halls of Urithiru, and as they did, Radiant reached out to brush the wall. It felt solid. This corridor was populated by hundreds of tiny candle flames hovering in the air, the souls of the people living and working in Urithiru. There were also a great number of spren, which on this side were like wildlife, the fauna that populated Shadesmar, attracted to, perhaps feeding on, the emotion and experiences of the humans on the other side. They were only visible in the physical realm when something intense let them manifest. Perhaps it was the bond that drew them, the bond to people, like Radiant Spren or the Spren of her armor, which kept up with them somehow, rolling across the ground and sometimes flying between gaps. There was something to the bond that drew Spren, invigorated them. Like Kremlings hiding in shale bark, Shallan thought, smiling, remembering drawings she'd done during a more innocent time. There was so much to be studied about the symbiosis between Spren and human. Someday, when all this was done, that would be her project. Yasna thought her a whimsical artist, and that was part of her. But so was the scientist. She dreamed of creating a grand illustrated tome explaining the intricate detail of the bond. Shallan's ultimate triumph in proving that art and science were actually one. The Windrunners landed them at a stairwell heading down. The bondsmiths had gone this way. Indeed, they shone through the glass floor up ahead. The 3 guards and one of the Windrunners went first to check the way, leaving Renarin to step over to her and whisper, "I saw a vision," he said, "right before you arrived. Verlaine thinks it's Ba Edo Mishram. What we're doing here is dangerous, and I need to talk to Shallan about it." So, reluctantly, Radiant stepped back and hoped they wouldn't get too distracted by whatever he had to say. The tower on this side was overwhelming to Renarin, while Verlaine hummed to the place's beauty, Renarin kept focusing on how many things were moving all at once. The walls of shimmering crystal, light catching on corners like it did on a prism. Then there were the Spren, flocks of them, many the size of minks or even axehounds, scurrying down every hallway, hanging from the ceiling, making shadows that reflected through walls, adding to the visual cacophony. Though Spren looked different on the side, he was sure. Though Spren looked different on this side, he was pretty sure those many-legged ones were fierce Spren, like eels with feet and one big bulging eye in the front. Glory Spren flittered around on wings, with glowing spheres for heads. But what were the ones that had 6 arms and gripped the walls, watching with a large, drooping mouth that seemed to have eyes in it? The things that were shaped like anemones? The darker shadows, hulking and threatening, that he kept glimpsing through glass walls? Storms. As he pulled Shallan aside, he searched his pockets for something to fiddle with. He came out with a couple of spheres, which he spun in his palm, and he tried to focus on the clicking sound the glass made. Shallan undid her hairband and fanned out her hair before replacing her hat. Her lips parted as she glanced one way, then the other. It was nice to know he wasn't the only one to find this terrible and overwhelming. She grinned like a madwoman. "This is amazing," she said. "I can't believe I haven't come in here before." "Didn't you just get back yesterday?" "I should have made time," she said, pointing. "Storms! What are those? I should sketch those. The ones with the spines? They don't look like any Spren on our side. Usually there's some physical clue to what they are." Despite her words, she didn't get out a sketchbook. They started down the steps, a Windrunner and Relaine ahead of them. Renarin kept the spheres in his hand, clicking them together, and went over what he wanted to say, spelling it out in his mind. "So you wanted to talk?" Shallan asked, eyeing another Spren above them through the transparent ceiling. "Yes," he said, deliberate. "Ba Edo Mishram, Relaine thinks we saw her in a vision." "I think I did too," Shallan said. "What?" "Odd things happen with light weaving," she said, "particularly if you've bonded 2 Spren at the same time." 2 Spren. Wait, that's not just some friend of Pattern's? The Deadeye? Deadeye? He peered ahead at the other cryptic. Was that what the bent lines in the head meant? He hadn't looked closely as... well, This place was so demanding and exhausting. He simply couldn't help but see everything. Two spren, he said, fixating on that. You have two spren? I didn't even know that was possible. Why would you bond a second on your trip? It's a long story, Shalon said. That seemed like a promise of more, but then she didn't continue. Anyway, Renarin said, eventually, again organizing and focusing his thoughts as a group of strange purple spren rolled down the steps next to them. You said this unmade was in the spiritual realm, and you said my father is opening a perpendicularity to travel there. Which the Ghostbloods know about, she said. So we tell him not to. I sent messages, she said, but it's a busy day, and he's been on the move. Besides, Renarin, when has your father ever reconsidered because any of us made an objection? She focused on the lights ahead. It appeared that his father and Aunt Navani had entered a large chamber at the end of the corridor. I can finally stop Mraize. For once, I know exactly where he's going to be. I just have to be there watching for him. But this Spren, Renarin said. Shalon, I think she's something terrible. Worse than the Unmade that caused the Alethi to hunger to kill each other in battles for centuries. Worse than that one that killed Asudan and consumed Amaram. Worse than anything. So we absolutely need to stop the Ghostbloods from getting to her. Or maybe we shouldn't be involved at all, Renarin said. What if by meddling we lead her to be freed? All the effort we took to lock the thrill, someone took that effort and more to lock Mishram away. If she's in the spiritual realm, maybe your enemies can't find her, Shalon. Maybe the prison isn't strong enough. Maybe the prison is strong enough. I can't simply let Mraize do whatever he wants, Renarin. And me? Renarin said, feeling Gliss thrum within him. Shalon, you specifically fetched me. Because you might be able to help spot others who have bonded corrupt, reborn? Remade? Ja not Spren. I think you can do that as well as anyone could, Renarin said. You told me Mraize had bonded one of Ja and Not's enlightened Spren because they could guide him in the spiritual realm. Then you came to find me. Why, Shalon? Why, really? She kept her eyes forward. Mishram's prison is compromised. The Ghostbloods knew precisely where to send agents to get the information and have intel on how to reach the spiritual realm. And their Spren, their enlightened Spren, can lead them through that realm. So you are going to try to find the prison, Renarin said. That's why I'm here. You hope Gliss can guide you. I don't think I thought it through that much, Shalon said. I'm working on instinct. Look, we should catch up to the others. She quickened her step. Renarin forced himself to keep moving along the short hallway, trying so hard to ignore all the lights, the motion. It was loud. Not loud to the ears, loud to every sense. It made him want to put his hands around his eyes and block out the most of the stimuli, to cut down on how much was reaching him. I will help, Gliss said. I will try. The Spren darkened things, dampening the lights at the perimeter of Renarin's sight, like what happened in a vision, where everything went black. It did help, and he was able to pull himself together and make his way forward after Shalon and the others. But storms, what was he letting her pull him into? Shalon could be a little like a sudden river after a high storm, a flood that could carry you until it ran out, leaving you stranded. Adolin just went along with it. Is she right? Renarin asked Gliss. Could you help us on the other side? In the spiritual realm? Yes, Gliss said, sounding hesitant as he pulsed. Yes, I think I could. I will. That was a small comfort, but Shalon did seem frightened of these Ghostbloods. Renarin didn't think they could do anything to his father. Human souls appeared as glowing flames on this side, but there was no way to interact with them. But they didn't know all the permutations of what anti-light could do, and... And he kept going, despite knowing he was trapped in a Shallan flood. Because if he turned back, then R'hllane probably would too, which would mean leaving Shallan completely without access to common sense. Don't be unfair, he told himself. She's done a lot of good for your family. A year of having her as a sister-in-law had shown him she could be a deeply sensitive and caring person, and she loved Adolin with an enthusiasm that none of the other women ever had. Beyond that, she had a remarkable handle on life, considering the way her fragmented mind sometimes presented challenges. In short, despite first impressions, he had grown fond of her. However, that didn't mean he liked the way she worked by instinct. Accidentally joining a secret organization bent on ruling Roshar, then never finding a time to mention it to anyone until it became a crisis? In his experience, that was the most Shallan thing she could have done. Unfortunately, a glow was building ahead of them at the end of the hallway. His father was preparing the perpendicularity, but there wasn't anyone here. The room they reached was a perfect replica of the one in the physical realm, only made of the same shimmering glass as everything else. He could make out the souls of Aunt Navani and his father, glowing brightly from their connections to powerful Spren, and another soul, which had to be Wit, shimmering with a great number of odd colors. Bliss confirmed it. Otherwise, the room was empty. Wait, what were those two souls over at that side, in the walls? Shallan set the three guards at the door and stepped in with the Spren, R'hllane, and the Windrunners. There, she stood with her hands on her hips. It seems impregnable. A hallway ending here? Walls we can see through, and no other humans in sight? Did I misjudge? Those two souls over there might be spying on Father and Navani, Renarin said. Could that be them? Shallan spun to follow his gesture. Storms! Maybe the Ghostblood slipped past in the physical realm. It's possible they transferred with a group of soldiers on the Shattered Plains. What do these Ghostbloods look like? Oh, that's R'hllane. What do these Ghostbloods look like? R'hllane said, inspecting the souls. Maybe we can identify them. We were expecting 3 people, Shallan said. 2 short, 1 tall, 1 woman, 2 men. 2 wear strange masks most of the time and are foreigners. The third is Thalen, though he dyes his eyebrows and keeps them short. He has scars across his face and... She paused, then glanced at Renarin. They would have Spren with them, maybe hiding within their hosts, as yours do? Toomey says that is likely, R'hllane told her. Any Spren can learn to do it, even on this side. And their powers? Renarin pushed. Jeanot can make any order of Radiant save Bondsmith, assuming the Spren are willing, and a lot of them are, Shallan. She offers a different option. A third option. So what powers should we be watching for? Well, one can transfer between Shadesmar and the physical realm, Shallan said, so they might be waiting on the other side for the perpendicularity to open, then plan to pop in here and enter it from this side. Good, R'hllane said. That gives us something to prepare for. He knelt beside the wall. These 2 souls, they seem to be hiding in an air duct. And what is that green spot? Pattern said. Cultivation, Spren. That is lift. Spying as usual, Shallan said, folding her arms. So maybe that's not them. What else could we be looking for? Renarin asked. Could one of them be a Lightweaver? Could they be disguised? Shallan glanced at him. Then her eyes widened, and she looked back through the clear, crystalline door. At the 3 soldiers, 2 short, 1 tall, who they'd brought here and posted out front. The end of chapter 31.
Damn. Should have seen that coming.
Right? Right? Silly Shallan. Silly Shallan tricks are for kids. Tricks are for kids. Boy, this gave us some creepy spren hiding. What is going on with creepy
Yeah, there's four-armed ones with eyes and mouths.
No, thank you.
No thanks. Yeah.
Not
Anemone
joking.
ones? Like just spiky boys sitting, waiting to be what kind of emotion is that? Caffeine? Because caffeine is crystals. Is I don't think they have caffeine yet.
Have we ever seen a full form of a pain spren
Well, pain
yet?
spren is the little grabby hands, right?
Yeah,
So that might be the 6 foot, 6-legged ones.
maybe. I don't know. I was just curious whether or not we had actually
No.
seen
I don't
Shadesmar side version of a pain spren.
I don't think so. Because they were like, we should run away before the pain spren come, or something like that in
Oh, that's
Springer.
true. Yeah.
Yeah.
I also want to see what the rain spren look like on the Shadesmar side of things because they're the little candles with the eyes on top.
Yeah.
I wonder if they look like big slugs and it's their eye stalks.
Love that idea.
Has anybody seen Uzumaki?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm. That one was deeply unsettling. That one got me. That one. Oh, okay. Dang it, snails. Oh,
Dang
can't
it,
get images out of my
snails.
head. Okay. Um, Shalon is hell-bent on determining on making sure that art and science are the same thing. Very useful to know. Good job, Shalon. They are. There's a science to art and an art to science. I don't know what she's trying to prove.
Yeah, I don't know. It is a kind of running theme, right, for the
It is.
cryptics and all of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Art. Art. Trevor, what stood out in this part of the chapters for you?
Um, Probably that last reveal there that the people they brought are probably Eotil and Murray's.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was
yeah.
that was good. That was a
It,
good
it
It's annoying because it's like I should have seen that coming.
right.
well,
Right.
it's what Shalon said, right? You become the guard.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Exactly.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
It is really brilliant. Dang it, Sanderson. You pulled a fast one over us.
Hate it.
CJ, what stood out for you?
I am in love with Gliss helping Renarin to cope with reality. It's one of my favorite things from all the preview chapters. I just really love this idea of them bonding together in that way.
That is really nice. That's that's a deeper and more important thing than anything else. A lot of other things we've seen. Griff, what stood out to you?
I think the fact that they are effectively traversing the tower on the Shadesmar side of things, and I mean, while it's translucent, it's solid.
That would be so cool. That
And I
should
found
be
that interesting because I don't think we have ever encountered another structure that works the same way. It's just been the tower.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Especially because if the tower is on a mountaintop, shouldn't that be an ocean?
Mm,
Because like the
Less,
oceans are land masses and the land masses are glass bead oceans.
yeah. I mean, unless a mountain range works similarly to an ocean because you can't traverse it, right? The
Right.
same
Yeah,
way
I
that
don't
you
know.
can. Yeah, I don't know.
um, because the tower, I mean, the tower could be there, and then yeah, but how did they get? Well, are the oath gates? Does the oath gate connect to land somehow in Shadesmar? And it's just that far out from the tower? Because the tower could just be sitting there, right?
Yeah, it's very odd.
I'm curious. I would love to see an illustration or something of the oath gates and Urithiru on the Shadesmar side of things.
They do have one. It's in the preview chapter for like chapter 20 or something. They
Okay, and is it just sitting on a mountain, even on the Shadesmar side?
No, it's just a drawing of the tower and the oath gates.
Oh,
There's
yes.
nothing.
No, see, I want it in context of the
Oh,
rest of the geography of Shadesmar.
well, we can't have everything we want,
Apparently not. No,
right?
I'm asking too much.
You could probably ask one of the art people at Dragonsteel to mock you up on a napkin, and then it'll be entered into the official art archives or the
I'll
archive.
take a I'll
If you
take a high-res picture of it.
The
Yes,
archives.
the
Oh,
archives.
beautiful.
Yes, yes. I heard a portmanteau earlier today that is absolutely brilliant. Crafternoon. When you do craft in the afternoon, crafternoon.
Nice.
That is beautiful. It's too perfect. It's too perfect. Is there anything more important to say about chapter 31? A more solid confirmation that Renarin is whatever Roshar's version of autistic is.
Yeah,
I think it's safe to
absolutely.
say. Uh, and
I mean, yeah, I think Renarin's autism and Shalon's DID is on full display.
yep. We also have Renarin trying to specifically say, hey, Ba'edo Mishram is really, really bad. Shalon, what are you doing? And
Yeah,
Shalon's,
I will say I found it incredibly creepy when she starts screaming in the because of Relane's presence. The fact that Ba Edo Mishram starts screaming in the uh, mirror window things that Renarin set up.
okay, I want everybody to give an answer to this. Um, it's a two-parter. So the first thing is, do you think Ba'edo Mishram is going to be released? And then do you think she's going to be like the ultimate evil for the back half of Stormlight, or is Relane going to try to convince her to be something good before they release her? Trevor, we're going to start with you.
Um, I think she'll be released,
Okay.
and I don't think she's going to be the big bad
Oh,
of
okay.
the back half.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just going to be an antagonist, but not.
I think she's an antagonist that's going to switch to the good side.
Ooh, okay. She's going to be like, get off my planet cultivation.
He's set her up so much as like she hates humans, so naturally by the end of her arc, she's gonna like humans. That's where my mind goes.
Ah, dang, you're right. All right. Nobody else has to answer. No, I'm just kidding. CJ,
No.
what do you think?
Okay, so yeah, I am fully on board with the idea that this is about the reconciliation between like Roshar and Bala Mishram. And so I think that's an important component piece. I think that's got to happen. I don't see her ending up as the big bad. At this stage, I have no concept as to what the big bad of 6 through 10 will be because I got 8 more days to go. And I'm just like, it could be Dalinar is a fused for all I know at this point.
Yeah.
There's way too many options.
It could be Sixth of the Dusk, and we wouldn't. No, I'm just kidding. Um, that would
That
be
would be an interesting twist.
that'd be a horrible twist. Griff,
Yeah, it would be a terrible one.
Griff, what do you think?
I think that she will be released.
Hmm.
I don't think she's going to be turn out to be the big bad. However, I do think that she is going to kill cultivation before she switches over to the good side.
I think
Wow.
that's even a good thing to do at this stage, probably.
And
Yeah,
I think that's going to set up somebody to take over cultivation's spot.
lift for sure.
Probably lift, yeah.
Confirmed.
Probably lift.
Love it.
But anyway,
Trevor's
that's
got it laid out. Trevor knows what's up. So,
I think lift is going to be the one to take over cultivation. But I believe that Ba'edo Mishram is going to be the one to kill cultivation and set those events in motion.
cool. Cool, cool, cool. Anything before we move on to chapter 32?
I was thinking about what you guys were saying like 2 months ago at this point now about how The cognitive realm is like of the mind, right? So
Yeah.
it's very fitting that Navani, the scholar, bonds the bondsmith that is of the mind. Like the sibling,
Okay.
has that stronger relationship to the spren and the cognitive realm, it seems.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah.
Dalinar is a physical brute who like literally bullies the Stormfather into bonding him. And our theory that we've been talking about is like that would pertain to the physical realm. And I keep thinking about who do we know that's been introduced in this first sequence of Stormlight so far that has a strong like sense of spirit and does not have a bond yet. And I keep feeling like Adolin is so well set up for that.
And I'm coming at it from the other way, where I think Dalinar is, and the Stormfather is more cognitive, or not cognitive, sorry, spiritual, and then
You think spirit.
Adolin and the Night Watcher would be physical. Um, so we're gonna
What do you
see,
think, CJ? You're
yeah,
new to this discussion.
choose
We
which
haven't
one
laid it
is
all out,
right.
but I'm sure you could piece it together based
Sure.
on what we said.
Yeah, I think I've heard this before. The idea of like each of the three bondsmiths having a stronger tie to each realm. Especially now with the visions being explicitly connected to the spiritual realm. I definitely can see the argument for Dalinar, spiritual realm, that concept. Um, the sibling being the cognitive makes sense to me because you're intermediary, physical, cognitive, spiritual. So then who would I put as our third bondsmith? I would really like a singer as our third bondsmith. Problem is, Relane's already taken care of. Venli's already taken care of. I'll go Leshwi. I like Leshwi.
Fused as
Yeah.
okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. You're
She's
cooking
one
with
of the good ones.
heat over there. Okay. She is
Yeah.
now. She is now. I will
I like
say
it.
Stormfather and Dalinar as physical, I could argue for because the Stormfather has like the biggest impact on the physical land of Roshar out of all
Sure.
of the bondsmiths. So I'm feeling at today, right now, 8:31 on Central on Monday 18th. I'm feeling 50-50 about that. So
It's funny because I feel like you're pulling me more in your direction too. I feel like the visions and like Dalinar being all about like finding the next best step to take and be the better man. That sounds like a very spiritual journey.
yeah, yeah.
It's
But
true.
Maybe my theory is just trash.
maybe I have plenty of trash theories.
Hey, any of our theories could be trash.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, but because the Night Watcher and their boons, like, does that come from fortune? Is that spiritual, or is that more physical and like physically changing their minds depending on how it is? Or because I
Lean
feel like
into
it's
those theories.
spiritual.
It's trash can, not trash can't.
Oh,
Love it. Love
that
it.
was inspired.
Thank you.
Wow. Okay,
How
we're
how
gonna
long is the next chapter?
say it again. How long
How
is this
long is the next
chapter?
chapter? Yeah.
Very short.
The next one is pretty short.
Oh,
Tiny.
yeah,
I
it's
think
not too
it's
bad. Okay, cool.
yeah, it was only like 12 minutes in the
Um,
audio version.
well, I'm gonna do it in 11 and 59 seconds.
I mean,
Wow.
Just kidding.
Press
by all
X to
means, do
doubt.
your best.
Press X. Okay. All right. Yeah. Let's go to chapter 32.
Let's go.
Vámonos. Ikimashou. Chapter 32. Chords of Light. As a king leaves a people with the gift of his absence, so that they may grow and solve their own problems without his hand to always guide them. From The Way of Kings, fourth parable. A glowing rift tore reality apart before Dalinar, a melding of three realms. It took the form of a pillar of light, emerging from his clasped hands, Glory spread, exploding into existence around him. The light soon washed out everything else, and power flowed like water into a mighty river, forming a puncture in reality that defied natural laws. Or, no, this was an expression of natural laws too, simply ones that were higher, more fundamental. All right, Dalinar said. It's open. Step in, Wit said, though Dalinar had lost track of him in the omnipresent light. Both of you. Let the light bathe you, then seek the spiritual realm. Dalinar moved, holding the portal open as one might part drapes at a window. Dalinar, Navani said, joining him. I can hear the tones of Roshar. They're familiar to me now. This place, it's been calling to me for weeks. She took Dalinar's hand in her safe hand, then reached out toward the sound with her fingers, which he could see making streaks in the light. He could feel that realm too, could feel her welcoming it as they stretched toward another place. Panic speared Shallan. Those people outside. Oh no, Vale thought. Remind me, what do you do when there's a guard watching for you? Storms. You became the guard. Unfortunately, Murray saw her looking through the wall at him and knew they'd been spotted. A second later, the three Ghostbloods burst through the door, still wearing their false faces, though Murray's had pulled a dagger out, one that glowed and warped the air. Protect the Spren! Shallan shouted, pointing. Those three guards are the enemy! The room became chaos. Three Ghostbloods pretending to be common Alethi guards faced two Windrunners and their Spren, along with Renarin, Ralain, Radiant, Pattern, and Testament. So many figures suddenly moving, responding, or panicking. Mraize raised his dagger and stayed back, though when the dagger got too close to his side, it made the light-weaving spark and rip apart. Eotil and Lieke leaped for Brete, perhaps identifying the Windrunner as the strongest. Radiant moved, shoving past Pattern and trying to get to Brete, who clashed with Lieke, holding back his dagger. Nearby, Isaac, the other Windrunner, tackled Eotil. Storms? No, Radiant thought, pulling to a stop. There was no way Isaac could handle Eotil. Indeed, the woman spun expertly and grabbed the younger Windrunner by the arm, slashing in a single smooth motion. She tossed him aside, blood spraying from a slit across his neck. Right then, Dalinar's perpendicularity opened. Power thrummed through the room, pulsing with the energy of storms, and Shallan felt it surge through her like hot water in her veins. She gasped in awe, and outside the room Spren began to scramble and scratch at the door. Eotil jumped for her, knife, fortunately a conventional one, bloody. Radiant separated from Shallan then, fully armored despite being in Shadesmar, formed of light-weaving given physical weight. Radiant snatched Eotil straight from the air, then slammed her to the glowing crystalline ground. Eotil grunted and slashed at Radiant, the weapon bouncing ineffectively off the shard plate. It wasn't real, but was anything real on this side? What had made this entire tower, if not raw investiture from the sibling? Radiant pinned Eotil down by one arm, but the Ghostblood performed an expert wrestling twist and slipped away. She spun around Radiant, who tried and failed to grab her. The woman's light weaving began to evaporate, letting her mask show through, and her eyes, rimmed by wood, fixated on Shallan. If she has an anti-Stormlight dagger, Shallan realized, dancing backward by instinct, she'll use it against me. That kills both me and Radiant, and likely negates Pattern and Testament. Not that either were very useful. Testament hid behind Pattern, who stood with one hand to his chest, Pattern spinning, like a woman whose garden party had just been spoiled by unexpected rain. As Eotil struck, Shallan dodged backward, blessing Adolin for his insistence on training her in knife combat. As she expected, though, this was a feint. Eotil slid another knife from her sheath and kept her hand back as if to hide it. This one warped the air. Shallan had been wrong about them only having a little bit of anti-light. There had been one bolt, but at least two daggers. Shallan continued to dodge, passing Isisik, whom Renarin was helping sit up after healing. A second later, Brette, careening in an uncontrolled lashing, came crashing down past. Eatil dodged, and Shallan saw her chance, bringing Radiant in to tackle the woman, forcing her to drop the dagger, which went skidding across the floor. While Eatil quickly slipped out of Radiant's grip again, Shallan was able to scoop up the dagger. She glanced up, met Eatil's furious gaze, then smiled in triumph. A second later, Shallan took a blowgun. A blowgun. A second later, Shallan took a blowgun dart to the eye. She stumbled back and barely managed to dodge through the pain as Eatil sent more darts after her. When had the woman gotten out that blowgun? Shallan scrambled away, making illusions of herself to distract, and pulled the dart free. Puffing, she assessed the situation. Isisik had been healed, but still sat on the floor, right hand to his bloodied neck. Leeka was facing Verlaine and one of the Windrunner Honorspren, the female who had spoken earlier, wearing a uniform and carrying a light dueling sword, which she wielded effectively to force the outsider up against the wall, then run him through. Shallan nodded in appreciation. So far, Maya and Notum were the sole spren she'd known with the air of soldiers, but it stood to reason there would be others, particularly among Honorspren who had chosen to come from particularly among the Honorspren who had chosen to come and form bonds rather than hide in lasting integrity. The Ghostbloods were losing this fight. They might be better individual warriors, but they faced 5 Radiants, plus the Spren and Shallan's illusions. Radiant backed Eatil into a corner, and Leeke, who didn't appear to have a Spren, died in the attack, falling limp and covered in blood. As quickly as the ruckus had begun, it was over. As Adolin had warned her so many months ago, combat was often short, brutal, and overwhelming. Years of training came down to a few key clashes. Shallan had even missed important parts while fixated on Eatil. She only now noticed that Mraize was on the ceiling, having apparently been lashed there by Brette. The Honorspren and Relaine joined Radiant in holding Eatil at bay, while Shallan and Isisik, regaining his feet, turned weapons on Mraize, trapped on the ceiling. Wait, Isisik said, where did that other Knight Radiant come from? And how did she get Shardplate and Shadesmar? Brede looked at Radiant, then frowned. Another Lightweaver, he guessed. Shallan? Well, she said, it's kind of complicated. You haven't asked, Eatil whispered from the corner. What happened to those guards whose places we took? Isisik turned toward her. What did you do to them? They're being held at the base of the pillar where you arrived, Eatil said, as insurance. They will be executed unless I give a signal, or you get to them first. She's toying with you, Isisik, Shallan said. Don't let her get inside your head. It's true, Mraize said from the ceiling. You know I wouldn't lie about this, little knife. You can save them, but you only have a few minutes. Is he lying? Isisik demanded. Shallan? She gazed up at Mraize, who smiled, confident. Damnation. He's probably not, she admitted, but both Windrunners dashed away, their spren following. Windrunners, Eatil said dismissively, so easy to play with. We still have you all, Shallan said, Mraize on the ceiling, Leeke down, Eatil trapped in the corner, holding her blowgun dart. Holding her blowgun, but apparently out of darts. You're captured. We win. Ah, Eatil said softly, but Mraize still has his dagger. Shallan looked up at him, her eyes locking onto the dagger. It was difficult to make out anything as the perpendicularity raged, washing out the room with brilliant white light. Spren in the distance were going haywire, 1,000 shadows dancing upon the ground floor. But she could make out that warping, that light that somehow repelled natural light, including that of the perpendicularity, in a bubble around Mraize's hand. It stood out like a single dot on an otherwise white canvas. Mraize? Shallan said, suddenly filled with dread. Mraize? What are you doing? Have you ever seen a perpendicularity collapse on it? Have you ever seen a perpendicularity collapse on itself, little knife? He asked. Maraise? I haven't either, he said, but it's reportedly spectacular. He threw the dagger. Shallan leaped for it, but she was in the wrong position. The anti-light struck the center of the portal. The blast that followed shattered the room. It was working. Dalinar could feel the vision begin to form, slowly at first, as if the spiritual realm was resisting. He and Navani pushed forward, as through a thick tar, holding hands, trailing cords of light to connect to the physical realm. Images began to form around him from swirling light, visions of places, people, ephemeral, winking away in seconds. The tones thrummed through him. It was working. He looked at Navani, grinning. Then, behind them, something snapped. Their connection to the physical realm vanished, and something came rushing toward them. Power, wind, and screams. The end of chapter 32. What will our heroes do next? Find out next week. Same bat time, same bat channel.
What's a bat?
It's like a chicken, but it tastes grosser. What was that, CJ? I don't know if your mic's working.
Would you say it tastes bad?
It would taste bad. Jesus Christ.
Oh, that was about as bad as mine.
I have an issue.
Uh-oh.
What's your issue?
I have been holding on to this issue since I read these chapters this morning. I feel like Murray's significantly acted out of character by destroying the perpendicularity. It has always been about what he can gain, right? Am I misreading that? If I'm not misreading that, why would he choose to throw a knife at the perpendicularity, potentially trapping the bondsmiths, which was going to be their way into the spiritual realm? Like, I get the plot point. I get that Sanderson had Navani and Dalinar needing to be trapped in the spiritual realm for whatever reason, and this was how he.
Okay, here's the one thing I can say. Well, okay, there's a couple of things I want to say. One, it may be an aspect of a plan that we're not actually fully aware of yet.
Okay.
Because we know that Mraize typically has plans upon plans, and sometimes he's even lies to other members of the Ghost Bloods about what they're actually doing while he enacts his real plan.
Okay.
The other thing that I want to mention is with him trapped on the ceiling and reinforcements effectively out of commission, he may have been basically doing what he could with the situation provided to him.
I accept those as arguments, and it's still, for that second one, it still feels like even if there was even a sentence about Mraize taking a moment to contemplate it, would have alleviated my frustration with this. But
That's
something,
fair.
the first point you made absolutely could definitely be it. I'd be happy to see that, and I'd be like, okay, cool. That makes sense. But if there's not that, then it feels like it's not a dumb plot. It's not one of those like the plot only works because people are dumb, but it
Not
is,
an idiot ball.
yeah. But it to me, it feels out of place specifically for that character.
So, Alex, I agree with you completely, and I also agree with Griff. I
Yeah.
think I think Moraes has a hunch of what will happen, and he's testing it, and he's confident that his hunch is right, but he's trying to scare Shallan maybe a little bit in the moment. Um,
What do you
but I
think
think
the
what
hunch
might be
is?
more important right now is what do you actually think happens when anti-light hits the perpendicularity?
What do
What
I
what what anti-light is it? Is it anti-stormlight or is it just anti-investiture?
I expect it's anti-stormlight.
I
So
wonder if it creates kind of a
Mhm.
vortex that's going to pull them all in.
So, I mean, but we saw at the end of the thing, um, their connection to the physical realm vanished. That
Mhm.
that is the ultimate result of what Mraize did.
Yes.
So, so Dalinar and Navani were going to use that to come back. They could come back
Right.
on their own, right? Like they're wearing things that were attached to that realm in that time, right?
Right.
Not
Right.
completely without a way to get back, but it was set up for that to be their way to get back, that way for Hoyd to talk to them in case that needed to happen. Then that's
well
taken away.
doesn't this help Mraize then? Because if they are without a way to get back home, then that gives Mraize and Eotil more time to catch up if they're behind in the spiritual realm. Um, it also levels the playing field so that they don't get left in the spiritual realm. They kind of all have to come back together. It kind of gives them an edge in that, I think.
Are you saying like you think Mraize, Eotil, and Shallan and Renarin and Relaine are all going to be pulled into the spiritual realm
Yeah,
for
like
this?
Griff says,
Okay.
it's going to suck them all in
Okay.
because they're
I
not dead, right? I mean,
Right.
like you said, the immediate aftermath is they hear screams, which we've seen worse happen in Stormlight. So,
Yeah.
I mean, relatively not that bad.
I'm
Um,
I'm not convinced that they're all sucked in. So, it'll if they're all sucked in, yeah, that makes a lot of sense and nullifies some of my weirdness with this. CJ, what are you thinking here?
Yeah, I think that like level one, Marais's most important thing is I have to do something to not be captured anymore because this is like that would be the end game. Like if I'm captured by my like apprentice, that is like the worst. That is the worst outcome. And I think he's acknowledging, I don't know what's going to happen when I do this. I think, like Trevor said, I have a few different possibilities of what might happen. And it seems like probably one of the conjectures is it's going to collapse in on itself, but that doesn't mean it's going to disappear immediately. So in the explosion, I'm going to have a chance to maybe jump through like I was planning anyway.
Okay.
And then, worst case, I can use the explosion to run away.
Okay.
I think that's probably what's going on, but
Sure.
yeah, it's tricky given that it is like risking losing his ability to get into the spiritual realm.
Right.
does the tower or sibling help negate any bad effects of it too?
We're gonna have to find out.
You
Well, I mean, like, what do you think? What's your theory?
Okay, my theory is that the sibling is gonna be damaged from it.
Ooh, I like
Ooh,
that.
Yeah,
I
that's
like
my
that too.
theory as well. Like even if it acts as like a sort of vortex that pulls them in, I still think the resulting clash of light and void light is going to cause some sort of a blast that is going to damage the sibling on the cognitive side of things.
The very end of Shallan's part of that chapter said, "The blast that followed shattered the room," which could be metaphorical, um, but it was talked about being like crystalline glass. So it could be
Hmm.
literal shattering, which I assume if you take part of something that is pure investiture and take part of that investiture away, they get hurt.
Well, and you're also going to be losing potentially Navani, right? So then the sibling is potentially hindered in their
Right.
physical
Ooh.
manifestation.
After a couple weeks, right, is what
Yeah,
Navani's bond weakens after a couple of weeks away. So
yeah.
we can assume that the invert converse
Oh man, that'd be
inverse
bad.
whatever the thing with the man.
Oh, miles though. It couldn't be
Inverse.
weeks, right? Because they've only been bonded for like 2 days, like at this point. So they can't even know the weeks part yet.
Yeah, what did they I thought they said
She did say something. I thought it was miles though, but
was
I
it
thought
Mike?
they like experimented how far away she could go. Maybe I don't remember. It's been a
I don't
hot
remember.
minute.
Somebody in the comments, please let us know so that next
Yep.
week we can correct ourselves and be sad. Just kidding. We won't be sad over that. No. If they don't explain what happened next week, if it's a flashback followed by a Kaladin chapter, I'm gonna be real upset. No, I'm just kidding. I won't be that upset. But I need to know. I need to know.
Yeah.
This the Spren wanted to run away from the perpendicularity. What do y'all think that means?
Wait, did they want to run away from it? I
Yeah.
thought that they wanted to run towards it because they
They were,
talked about scratching at the doors.
yeah, to get away from it.
Oh,
Um,
I misread that chapter, or I misread that portion entirely
Weird.
oh boy, searching for Spren is not very quick. Uh,
then.
Start at the end.
oh yeah, good idea.
Hmm.
Huh.
Yeah, I don't know why they would want to flee from a perpendicularity. I don't know why they would care. Does
Spren,
it
they,
could it take them? Could it
They'd
absorb
feed on
them?
the investiture, right? Because you're infusing investiture into the thing. I would think they'd be moving
Yeah.
towards it. That would have been my
That's why I thought
assumption.
they were
Could
moving towards it, was because they wanted the investiture that Dalinar was creating.
hold on, guys. Hold on. She
Are
gasped.
they afraid that it might absorb them? It's the only
Uh,
thing I can think of.
okay. Power thrummed through the room, pulsing with the energy of storms, and Shallan felt it surge through her like hot water in her veins. She gasped in awe, and outside the room, Spren began to scramble and scratch at the door.
Yeah, outside the room, they were scratching at the door, wanting to get into the room.
Oh,
That was my read. Now
Okay.
that we have the context.
fine.
Either way, what an odd thing to include in your 491,000 word book where you're scraping for cuts.
Yeah, and then later it says, Spren in the distance were going haywire, a thousand shadows dancing upon the ground floor.
Hmm.
Maybe they do want to go towards
Yeah,
it.
so I think they're kind of going crazy over the
Yeah,
investiture that
sounds like it.
Dalinar is creating.
Well, I think it'd be cooler if they went away from it. So I'm gonna hold on to that as my own little why didn't you do this?
Okay, you can have that as your personal headcanon.
Thank you.
Speaking of running away from things, man, like we were just talking about windrunners getting distracted by Moash, and
Yeah.
immediately windrunners are distracted at the idea that
Yeah.
somebody might be in. Guys,
They took oaths.
I,
They took
this
oaths.
is this is what happens when you don't have Kaladin there to be like, hey guys, we have to accept that there are those we cannot save, and we need to protect Daladar. He is the person we're here to protect right now.
They're
Yeah,
like,
seriously, the fact that they, like, at the first sign, they just booked it away from the person they were there explicitly to protect was frustrating.
yeah, hey guys, did you hear Kaladin swore the fourth oath? Oh yeah. Do you know what the words he said were? Well, I mean, he said that it was I accept that there are those who I'm not gonna be able to protect or something like that. No, that can't be right, can it? No. I mean, I don't know, man. No, that can't. But the second idea though, well, that's how I imagine that went down.
That's why I feel like the people that think the fifth oath will be I am protection, like I will protect everybody, just makes no sense to me. It's
No, that
like
doesn't make any
if we're
sense.
going further
Yeah,
away
no,
from that
that's
or
definitely
putting
not.
more conditions on it, that doesn't make sense.
No, it
Yeah, that
needs to
doesn't
be
make any.
nuanced.
That's definitely not going to be the
Yeah.
fifth ideal.
And needs to be
No.
nuanced, personal, and deep. And I am protection is not nuanced, personal, nor deep. So, no.
Yeah. Anyways.
Um, Renarin saved a guy from dying, so that's like a second time.
Yeah,
Bloody slit throat, not a problem.
Renarin's like
No,
2
you're
for 2 with
not.
fights
You're
now, right?
fine.
Yep,
Mhm.
yep. Renarin has survived 2 fights. Exactly 2, no more, no less.
Unbeatable.
Yeah,
he has survived 100% of the fights that he has been in.
and he will likely survive all of them. Oh man, unless he becomes Odium's champion somehow.
I don't see that one coming true, but
Well, that's because it's actually R'hllor is Odium's champion. It's two
oh, I
against
see. They're
one.
going to come into it as a
Oh.
couple. I see. I
Yeah,
see.
it's R'hllor versus Davani. Oh man.
No.
Double date.
Couldn't we have just gone and seen a movie?
Uh,
Man. Uh, was there anything super interesting that stood out to you, CJ?
I don't think anything we haven't talked about already. I was very frustrated with the Windrunners. Yeah, I think we've covered everything else that was big and stood out to me.
Okay. Trevor?
Um, I like how Lift is just like watching from
Yeah.
the vents
Yeah.
with
And I assume Deanno.
Wendell.
There's Wendell, the green one, and then there were two souls, right? So I bet one of
Yes.
them's Deanno.
So okay, so is it Deanno or is it Gav?
Well,
well, Gav was with. Oh well.
no, Gav was handed off um
Okay.
to the person, and then I highly doubt he could have gotten into the vent by then. So,
So probably Deanno then, which would be really bad if they get sucked in because then they're without their general, right?
oh shoot.
Mhm.
Okay. I'm actually
That's a big uh-oh.
I'm totally for this whole sucking him in thing because that would create so much tension and plot that needs to
Dude,
happen.
I don't think I'd be able to finish reading the book. I'd be too nervous.
Because
I'm
I
not even gonna
feel
lie.
Lift would only be in there for a little bit, and she would take Deanno out of it. However, her special way she got
Yeah,
into
yeah, yeah, yeah. She just walks out like, all right, guys, see,
yeah
I'm hungry.
yeah, and she walks out and Boyd's there like
Yeah, yeah.
the frick yeah
Wait, so Lift kind of does she kind of is able to walk out there, right? Because
she
she
got in
constantly goes into the visions, just like
yeah a couple
willy-nilly.
times yeah
I
Yeah,
mean, it's her mind going in there, though, right? So that's where it gets really tricky.
right.
If your mind, body, and spirit have gone into the vision,
oh
Wait,
shoot
what happens
so
then?
if they when they go into the spiritual realm, are their bodies like left like husks, or do they like actually go into it like
it is
Shazamar?
definitely Avatar: The Last Airbender
So they're
Aang.
like astral projecting into it?
I assume so.
Usually,
Okay.
the visions, yes. This
Yeah, that's
version,
true.
no.
No,
They're
this
going.
version they would be sucked in fully.
Yeah. Presumably, right? That's
Right,
like
right,
Moray's
right.
exploding it.
If it explodes
So
and
is
it
there
that would
sucks
make
is there
sense.
gonna be another threat to their bodies like there was in Rhythm of War, do you guys
well,
think?
if they ever get to that point where they actually do the mental thing, because I think CJ is definitely right. This is purely physical.
And that's kind of why I thought that it made a vortex because it is the perfect way to get Shalon into the spiritual realm for her search of Bai and Amishram.
Well, yeah, but they could spend a whole day being like, "Oh my God, Dalinar and Navani are gone," and then Dalinar and Navani come back the next day on day four, which gives them even less time to do the things. So they make even riskier
Yeah,
that keep us on the edge of our
How
seats, getting
how do
paper
you guys
I
think
don't
we
know.
get
task for turning the pages.
how do you think we get the explanation for all of this? Is it gonna be Navani pieces it together on their side, or Hoyt explains it to Yasna, or something
Gav,
else?
Gav is gonna overhear Hoyd explaining to Yasna,
Okay.
and he's gonna have little intrusive thoughts about killing Moash the whole time.
Gab's just gonna leave the tower. Like, I need to
I
go kill
wonder,
Moash.
I wonder if I can use a perpendicularity to kill Moash. And
I will say I definitely want to see Murray's Andy Otto die after this whole debacle.
Yeah, I was texting Alex before this. I feel like Eotil has got to go in this book, but Mraize is gonna get away.
Yeah.
yeah,
I wouldn't be
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
shocked if
possible.
Moray's pops out in like Era 3 Ghost Bloods or something. Like,
I genuinely want to see something like that happen.
it's
That'd be
probably
great.
gonna be one of his descendants, raise him or something like that.
Mraize.
I love it.
Raise him.
Rakesum. We can go the Kingdom Hearts
There we go.
Heartless
Yeah,
Nobody
yeah.
version.
Yeah. Actually, that's all Era 3 is gonna be is is that of all of the Mistborn characters. I'm gonna
Is
say
this going to be all the nobody versions of them,
yeah, yeah,
all with X's in their names?
yes,
Kel Kelksier.
I,
Kelxier. Yeah,
I I do also want to say that whole plot point is even dumber than people realize, but
we don't need to go into a
You don't need to
three-hour
get
yeah, no,
you
we're
know.
this
about
is
that
this is not a Kingdom Hearts lore podcast. We don't need to get into that.
yet.
I just want
I'm
everybody to know that that whole plot point in Kingdom Hearts is even dumber than people realize on the outset.
So glad to know.
I'm really worried that we're about to now have to like stretch the events of Dalinar, Navani, maybe Shallan, maybe Renarin, maybe Relaine across multiple days because their time is going to pass differently than our time. And so, like, we might not see them in day 4 because day 3
Yeah.
they have this like little moment, and then I don't know, the fact that the parts are set by day but their time is going to pass differently than Roshar time has me
Well,
concerned.
that
I think they
might
won't be in day
be
3.
that might honestly work in their favor though, because the fact is we're going to have to spend a lot of time focusing on the uh attacks on the various cities. And so the fact that Sanderson can kind of go in and be like, yeah, wibbly wobbly, timey wimey, like there's weird time passing for Navani and Shallan and all that. And so, like, honestly, I think that might actually work in their favor where Sanderson can compress the trip that everybody in the spiritual realm is taking and therefore dedicate more of the book to the attacks that the singers are doing on the various cities.
Yeah,
I'm gonna take
that's
that
fair.
one step further. Uh,
The
so
next step,
the next,
perhaps.
I am yes, the most important step. Um, absolutely. Actually, I'm gonna go ahead and say it now, and I'm 99% confident I'm wrong that Shallan, Relaine, and Renarin are not going to be seen for the rest of the book.
No!
They're gonna
That is a
come
I'll
back.
take
bold
that bet.
prediction.
They're gonna
I'll
come
take that
back
bet.
in.
What are the odds on that bet, Alex?
They're gonna come back. I don't know how statistics work anymore, so um, they're gonna come back in the back half of Stormlight. Um, they're gonna come back in book 6, and things are gonna have gone way downhill. And then they're gonna release Ba Edo Mishram. They're gonna have her.
Actually, sorry, go on. I didn't mean to
No, that was
interrupt.
about it. That was about it.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, actually, they're going to show up in the epilogue to book 5, and they're going to have all new powers and all new like artifacts that
Yes,
they've collected from the spiritual realm,
yes.
and they're going to have aged 20 years.
And
And
Relaine and Renarin come out holding their child
yes, absolutely.
that
So
they
I think
made
I
out of
saw
the
someone
future.
put a theory on Reddit like a week or two ago, that if they were to go into the spiritual realm and find like a memory with Tien, would they be able to bring a version of him back with them?
In a gemstone.
Yeah. That was it. You that said that, or I thought
It
that was
wasn't me
someone.
that
Said
said.
that. I said that
Yeah, someone mentioned.
on this.
Yeah, CJ said that on
Did you?
this.
Was that
Yeah,
you?
yeah,
Okay, maybe that
yeah.
was it.
Yeah.
Because
That's a
Trevor.
great theory, though.
Yeah, it
I
was.
don't, I don't know though, because it would lack the spirit web.
Well, but you use spiritual hemalurgic spikes to spike it to Tien's actual spirit connections, and then you
But the
spike it
reason
to a
I
body.
the reason I bring it up as like an actual possibility is because someone in one of the last few conventions asked Sanderson, okay, now that we know Tien, spoiler alert, was gonna be a light weaver, can we have and now that he's dead, can we have his truths? And Sanderson rathoed it. He gave like I think he gave one, like he gave a hint for the first one, which just makes me think that we're gonna see it at some point, and bringing him back through the spiritual realm making him another character in the back half. I don't know. It sounds crazy now that I say it out loud, but I don't
I
know.
think what might happen is that we might potentially get a vision for Kaladin where he experiences Tien's oaths in some way, shape, or form, but I don't think Tien is going to come back to life. Because I think, and this isn't confirmed, so realize I'm just
Hmm.
theorizing here. But I think that when someone dies, much in the same way their cognitive self goes into the beyond unless they find some source of power to keep them there, I think their spirit web also does the same thing.
I think you're right.
And so, and I think that's why cognitive shadows can still exist, but they're not the same thing as just the human
Hmm.
still sticking around. As I said, I could be wrong. We have no confirmation on that. I'm just kind of based
Yeah.
on what we saw at the secret history of Mistborn and all of that. I feel like it's very likely that both the spirit web and the cognitive self travels to the that great beyond area that we saw everybody going
Yeah.
into.
No, I think you're right. And I don't think Sanderson's going to bring him back to life per se. It's just the train of thought that I was going on. I thought there might be something there to talk about, but
What
I'm
if,
probably just crazy.
what if Ba'ir Mishram is connected to Tien because he likes rocks and a gemstone is like a rock. And so they no, I'm gonna stop there. Let's briefly talk about the epigraphs,
Yeah.
which were slightly strange, but clearly moving towards the same thing that they have been this whole time. So think, my dear reader, as a soldier retreats from a battle he cannot win, as a woman rejects a home that shows her only violence, as a family finds hope in walking away from dying fields during a season of too much rain. Dang, that was a long chapter. Hold on. As a king leaves a people with the gift of his absence, so that they may grow and solve their own problems without his hand to always guide them. It just gives more thought to leaving
Mhm.
Yeah.
100%.
And
The
The
Hoyd talking
those
about
this
them leaving Ashen again in this chapter, kind
Mm,
of giving more to that caravan type theme.
well, and the whole thing about the a woman leaving a house that shows her only violence, it definitely reminds me of Shalon.
mm,
Yep.
yeah.
Kaladin, the soldier retreating from a battle he cannot win.
Yeah.
As a king leaves a people, Dalinar, let's go.
Mm-hmm.
Vamonos, buddy boy.
So
Get
then who are the farmers that leave the field after the dying field after too much rain?
the Shin and Zeth's family, maybe? No.
I was
Yeah,
kind of thinking
maybe.
the listeners.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, possible.
Or the Alethi.
Mm-hmm.
A moment of silence for contemplation.
Maybe Kaladin's family.
Maybe that one obscure character referenced in The Way of Kings and never talked about again.
Which one?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
You,
that one.
you don't remember? Probably something like Betar or I don't know. Could come up with all sorts of names.
Risen.
Trevor, do you got the arches pulled up? Do you want to be our arch guy?
Yeah,
Heck yeah.
sure.
He says reluctantly.
First one, chapter 31 experiment has two slots filled by the wild card, the Joker, which is Hoyd, and then the other is Bata or Batar, patron of the Else Callers. Her attributes are wise and careful, and her role is counselor.
Hmm.
So Hoyd is
And
in that
that's for chapter
chapter.
31.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the emblem is the like what's it called?
The
The
Fabrial.
Fabrial.
Yeah, the Fabrial. So I'm starting to think that maybe the arches pertain like to that symbol as well. And as we talked about a few weeks ago, the chapter title relates to the chapter emblem. So this is like
Right.
Navani's POV, right?
Oh, okay. That makes
They're
sense.
experimenting with that. So it could be that, Hoyd is in here and he's counseling them on like how the spiritual realm and like how navigating that might look. So it could be that. Could be all about Hoyd.
Should
That's my
sure.
guess.
And what about chapter 32?
32 Chords of Light is two slots filled by he looks like Yezrian,
Mm-hmm.
and then the other two are Ishar. So Ishar is pious and guiding, and his role is priest. Yezrian is protecting and leading, and his role is king.
We did get some strong protection with Mraize and Eotil tricking the protectors of stupidity, the Windrunners. Sorry. Uh, and we got bondsmiths. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go
Yeah.
into favorite moments before we close. CJ, what was your favorite moment from these chapters?
My favorite moment is Redarin and Gliss entering Shadesmar, and Gliss continuing to be that intermediary. Just stuck out to me as one of my highlights from all the preview chapters.
Very cool. Trevor?
I think it's the reveal that Hoyd has a piece of the original like Ashen Rock, and claiming that he knows where the not the Zeth, the Shin religion kind of originated from, and he's just like quiet about it. Navani's like shocked by it. And that was great.
Griff?
I would say the description of the different Spren. I've always liked the descriptions of the kind of otherworldly monsters that he has. And I wish we got, again, a kind of an encyclopedia, because I would like to see them all listed out, including the intoxication Spren. I want to see what those look like.
It makes sense. Yeah.
I think he has like an encyclopedia. I just don't know if he's going to release it.
Well, he needs to. If
Because
not,
he
if
he
not
puts
after
those in
series one, then
last.
after series two.
Yeah, yeah. He puts them in last. Like he just puts in the Spren, and then he goes and looks at his database and is like, oh, this one looks like that. Okay. Then he puts it in later.
Yeah, I think it'd be fun to have a Rosharan encyclopedia. But anyway, yeah, I just like the description of all the weird Spren inside the tower.
I agree. That is cool. My favorite, which we didn't discuss, was Pattern holding his hand to his chest, like a woman whose garden party got unexpectedly rained on, is a image for how useless
Clutching his
Pattern is.
pearls.
Clutching his pearls is a perfect image of how useless Pattern could potentially be.
Yeah, they're not super useful in the cognitive realm.
No, no. If only he summoned Shallan as a shard human.
That's for Adolin to do.
That's true. That's true.
I have I have been
Maya
re-listening to Oath. I have been re-listening to Oathbringer,
Good
and
choice.
I've recently gotten to the no mating part.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. And Pattern had character growth with that
Indeed,
in the
no mating.
It's ridiculous. Good job, Sanderson. Iconic.
Pattern has feet, but does he have hands? I can't remember.
He does have hands.
He does.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
In the cognitive realm, at least.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Okay. With that, thank you for listening. This has been wonderful. We'll see you again next week. We'll do the thing. Griff will say his thing, and then I'll say, okay. I'll say my two parts, and then one of you will say something, and then the other will say before something else. Does that
Is this
sound
being
good?
included in the recording?
Is this physically being like this part right now?
This part that you're talking about right now.
I believe that this part we are talking about right now is going to be edited out.
If I remember to, I'm going to edit it
I
out.
don't trust Alex.
Don't trust me.
Should we hand the editing off to somebody else?
If I could afford that, I would.
Fair.
Um,
Anyway, until next time, don't panic, World Hoppers.
Life Before
Wait, we
Death.
didn't decide yet.
CJ, you choose the thing that goes at that replaces Journey, and then Trevor, you say before, and then choose something to replace Destination. Okay.
I'm telling you right now, it's gonna be a Lincoln.
It's gonna
Am I still saying my bit again?
Yeah. What did you say?
Wait. We need Adel Dory to explain what's going on right now.
Oh God. Okay. I believe what we are having is that
God.
I'm going to say my piece. Alex is going to say
Life Before Death,
Life Before Death, Strength Before Weakness. CJ is going to say X, and then Trevor is going to say before Y.
But you're going to replace X and Y with whatever you want.
Oh, that was before Y. Okay.
I figured that was self-explanatory.
No.
Anyway.
For sometimes, Griff, you just gotta make.
Okay.
Okay. Oh.
Oh boy. You're gonna need to edit this part out.
We might edit this out. It's gonna be a crapshoot. You're gonna have to watch to the end of the video to find out. Griff, go ahead.
All right. Until next time, don't panic, World Hoppers.
Life Before Death, Strength Before Weakness.
Explosions
before Blinkins.